Hello everyone, Flapjack Pants here. Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Play series. As you can see right now, we're in a bit of an awkward position. That's because I'm filling up the mud dripper with more clay so that we can get a lot of terracotta for this upcoming project today. Last episode, we built up our tree farm right here, but we didn't really have time to make the exterior because this is a pretty large build. So today, we're going to do just that. Alright, so now that we have filled up our silo here, I'm going to take a harvest. In between episodes, I brought this wall further down so that in the silo we could have a little bit more room and so that each time we could harvest more clay. We'll put all of this into our little furnace setup to churn away while we are working on the rest of the materials. Turns out I don't have any crimson fungi to my name, so I'm going to be going to the nether to get some of that. I'm gonna collect some of this, what is this called? Nylium here, so that we could, maybe in the future, bone meal some. I'm actually surprised I don't have any at home. I'm also gonna take this opportunity to stock up on some wart blocks. Okay, this should be roughly enough. I really don't like being in the nether. Alright, and with that should be all of the materials that we need for today's project. But before we get started, I just thought I'd give an update on the farm. I've added here another storage slice just for sticks, just in case in the future we want to use this as a fuel source, or if we ever need an industrial quantity of sticks for whatever reason. And also, another thing, I've added an access ladder here for the upstairs of the wool farm. Bit on the simpler design right now, but basically this allows us to get access to all of the shears. So what I'm going to do with this farm right here is, you can see how this is kind of L-shaped with a corner here that's pretty much empty. So I'm going to have two main facades, one that goes here and one that is right here, and then the corner here is going to be empty for now, and we can fill that up later. Without further ado, let's get started here on this first facade. This is where the first floor wall is going to be. I'm using a pretty standard design that I have basically used before with a lot of cobblestone, these kind of gray colors, just like this building right here. We're just going to be going from cobblestone to tuff to deep slate, kind of like this. For the door, we're actually going to place the door one block in like this so that we could use trap doors and then have a much larger door. A lot of saying door in the same sentence. Then right here on this second floor, we're going to basically have a bunch of frames made out of soul sand at first, but really it's going to be a brown gradient. Basically just like this, except actually we could potentially make this one block taller here. The second floor here overhangs over the first, and then the third one on top of this is going to overhang even more, so we really need to have this darker brown here to really emphasize the shadow. And then inside these frames here, I wanted to use a bit of a different color, so I'm going to use orange here, just like this. The scaffolding kind of represents like a window. We're going to basically have the exact same thing again for the third floor, but this time we're going to maybe make it a little bit taller so that we could have a bit more contrast here, so that we could have a bit of a better ratio between our floors. This time this middle one can also be 3 wide. Wait a minute, I've actually made a mistake. We need to move this all one block to the right. Alright, just like that. That should do it. For now, this is just going to be a bit more bare bones, but later we can come back here and add more decoration. Alright, so this is basically the main part of the building. Just above that is going to be the roof. So I want to come down here. There's not much room to see it, but I think this is actually going pretty well. I like the way the building gets a little bit wider. It's like a little bit more cartoony. The frames here on the roof are going to be a little bit thinner at 2 blocks. And then now we can start adding in this concrete powder. Now this is a bit of a difficult block because basically I wanted to have it look like there was a shadow being cast on the orange, and there's not really a very good color for that, so we're going to use concrete powder, and I'm curious to see how it looks. I decided not to use it on the front just because it blends in a little bit too much with the frame material, but I think here on the roof you'll see it actually creates a decent effect. I'm going to use just black stone for the roof because I don't think we need to go too much more complicated than that. This roof is going to go up 2 blocks at a time, just like that. Right here, there's going to be an extra little window to add a little more symmetry and detail to the top here. And then back to making a shadow on the orange here. And to create an even darker shadow, you might think I'd want to use a darker version of concrete powder, but again, that really blends into our frame material here. So what I decided to run with was actually blue terracotta. So it's a very interesting color, but I think it does give that shadow effect very nicely. As we slowly inch our way up here, you can see I've been using the occasional mud blocks here in place of the concrete powder because I think it adds a bit of a different effect as well. It's slightly lighter. So if we have a configuration like this, I think it's a little bit more appealing this way. And that should pretty much do it. Once again, not too much room to look at it, but yeah, as you can see right there, there's like a pretty convincing shadow effect using the blue terracotta here. I just think potentially we might take away some of it from the window in the middle, but I think for now this looks okay. For the front here, I wanted to add a bush, and I wanted to do this with moss because it's like a thicker kind of bush compared to regular leaves, which you can see through. So I think it's a nice complementary color to the orange. And then we're gonna break up this first floor here with some fences, exactly like we did here. I wanted to kind of also make an arch shape using these different kinds of blocks. So I think that's a decent effect, but it looks a little bit thin in the middle parts. We might revisit this at some point. And for each of these windows here, I wanted to add a windowsill and some trapdoors to sell the effect. I wanted to use slabs and stairs instead, just to experiment a little bit here. I'm using oak trapdoors here because really from a distance, they kind of fade into the rest of the building and provide just like a nice color to everything, while up close, they still look pretty involved. Fake windows are better than real windows. Alright, so that should be this main facade right here for the most part done. I think the effect works pretty well. Maybe just these sides here are a little bit unnatural looking, but I think once we get other buildings in here, I think the effect will really sell itself. Alright, so this other facade right here is slightly larger, but it'll begin pretty much the same way, and it has a really similar idea behind it. This time we're going from dark oak into darker brown colors. The entire gradient is a little bit darker compared to the frames here, but it's really a similar idea. And once again, really, these aren't that complicated. Like maybe I wanted to have like a cover. I forgot what these are called, but just like that building over here, right here. So it doesn't have to be a super detailed gradient for that reason. I was thinking about mixing in the black stone here, but ironically, I think the black stone is actually a lighter color than the black terracotta, so I might change this out back into terracotta again. Once we get this floor in right here, I'm going to do a wider door just like there, but slightly shorter. As you can see right here, for this first layer on the second floor, I'm going to have this middle part here kind of jut out from the wall, and then the sides kind of go a little bit further in, so that this time there's a lot more depth and contrast. For these sides right here, we're really going to use basically the same idea with the frames. The inside, instead of just using crying obsidian, for some of these I think we could use glowstone, kind of like that, so there's a little bit of depth in the middle here. And this creates the effect as you walk around. See, the glowstone texture here is like almost glistening a little bit. I think that's like a slightly more realistic interior light. Once again here for the shadow, I'm going to use concrete powder, just like that. Alright, so I basically finished this second floor right here. And as you can see, the middle section here is coming along. That's not going to have windows, but rather instead these kind of support beams. We actually need to take down and replace the scaffolding because I forgot that we're going to put a balcony up here in the middle as well. So this really juts out much more forward. In case you can't tell with this build, I'm kind of pushing myself a lot with the amount of depth that I use. This definitely has, you know, much more of that compared to some of my older builds. I wanted to use anvils here as kind of the railing. I just think anvils are a really cool block in general, and one of the perks of this single player world is just how much iron we have. So yeah, just like that. Fake balconies might just be better than real balconies. Alright, so as we're constructing the third floor here, as you can see, it's basically just a continuation of what we were doing with the second floor. And then, believe it or not, on top of this, there's going to be a fourth floor. So technically, this is going to be the building in this city with the most floors, even more than the church. So the roof here, I'm going to mix in some crimson slabs, which is why we had to go to the nether earlier, kind of in the same weathering effect that I used in these buildings over here. Alright, so as you can see right here, I'm kind of adding these brown terracotta sections here in between this flat wall to really emphasize the shadow right here, because I don't want to do too much overhangs and that kind of stuff, because again, we're really working a lot with depth already. So to keep it a little bit realistic, you know, there's some sections that we would want to keep a little bit flatter. So by changing the shading like we're doing here, that's how we can emphasize the change in floors. This middle section here, kind of like the balcony, will add a few more vertical windows going up. Alright, so this should be, for the most part, the building mostly done. As you can see, we're on the fourth floor. Now we just need to add in the entire roof. Unlike in the other building, as we can see right here, the slope of the main roof will basically follow the same slope as the balcony. Alright, now this for the most part should be this facade finished. Now all we need to do is add the detail to the first floor that I've been talking about this entire time. We're going to need a little bit of wool for this one. So basically what we're going to do right here is alternate between blue and white wool here to create this little cover over this front area. Actually, I might make this one block taller. Then to really sell the effect, we can kind of extend these further down using banners, just like that. Right, and by extending over this sidewalk a little bit, we can add some pots here to the build, which I think could add a lot of character. I'm going to put 2 up here as well, and then maybe we can have 1 up here. This section of the build is a little bit boring, so I'll add some stairs here to mix it up a little bit. In case you didn't know already, these little moss sections are supposed to be areas where flowers are planted, and I think for the most part this building should be done. There you go. I think it's got a very nice character to it. I don't think it needs too much more detail, honestly. The colors really just kind of speak for themselves here. And as you can see with this one, the further out we go, really the more the shadows and the details pop out. And the closer we go, the more the pots pop in. Now all there is to do is just extend the roofs over to where they should naturally meet each other in the middle, and then we'll go on to create the interior from there. And that pretty much does it. So as you can see here on this blackstone roof, I didn't do the weathering because, you know, maybe we can add a little bit of lore to this world. Maybe say this roof is newer than the brick one. I also want to add in the anvils here that we had. And then as you can see right here, this is the chest for the TNT. It's right here out in the open, so if we ever need to, we can just fly up here and put more TNT right here. But now I think the last thing that we need for the exterior here is a big chimney going where this chest is to make this a little bit of a more nonchalant chest access. And then maybe another one right here as well, just for show. So for this building right here, I wanted to kind of have a little bit of a simpler design. I think we could just literally go straight up like this. And then this could just be our chimney right here. But this also kind of looks a little bit strange in its own way. I think it looks alright, but I need to make it a little bit longer. Stuck the landing. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if 5 blocks taller. It might be a little bit too tall. How does it look from ground level? Yeah, maybe like 1 or 2 blocks I can knock off. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Oh, okay, here we go, here we go, here we go. No! Yes, alright. Let's knock down 3 blocks. That looks pretty much more like it. Okay, so I was thinking like a 3x3 kind of chimney right here. Kind of like this, and then we could have a more kind of almost circular design. And then we transition into tuff. I actually do like it. Oh, I think I forgot to turn my tuff into tuff bricks. And then the tuff is grime on the side. I don't know if I'm overthinking it, to be honest. I might be overthinking it. I think the last thing we can do here to improve this even more is just turn these into walls so that it goes up at like a pointier angle. Yeah, look at that. That is perfect, I think. Now, with all of this done and dusted, it's time to prepare for round 3 of this whole project, and that is the interior. I was just gathering my materials here, and I heard a lightning strike outside, so I'm gonna seize this opportunity and try to get some more... Yep, there it is. I'm gonna try to go get some more mob heads here. These explosions are huge. Charge creep up first blow. I haven't gotten another zombie yet, so let's see if I can get that pig. Oh, just killed him. Yeah, looks like the rain is clearing up, unfortunately. Alright, all of these are going right into the valuables chest. We have 8 heads now. Anyways, I need another ingredient in the nether for this new base. I'm pretty sure I don't need shears for this, but I don't have any, so this could end up being rather fruitless. If I remember correctly, if I fly in this direction, there's a pretty big... Yeah, there we go. And there's a good amount of vines right here. Yeah, honestly, 19 is probably going to be good enough for what we're doing today. Alright, let's get cracking on the interior here. So first and foremost, with these interiors, I usually like to work on the chest wall first. So in this case, that would be right here. Kind of because this is like the central point of this building, and so if there's anything that we build, it should be basically revolving around this. Usually my rule for these interiors is just to keep it as simple as possible, so, you know, nothing terribly fancy here is going to happen. The walls here, I'm basically going to use a design that takes advantage a lot of stairs and walls. So basically our wall is going to essentially look like this. And this is pretty much what I was going for. So as you can see right here, there's a doorway here that leads into nothing for now. But as I said earlier in this video, in the future I want to have kind of a corner building here that takes up this extra space. So we're gonna like pretend that's there for now, but this is actually going to lead directly into this building here. The corner building is going to be separated and its own thing. We do have to keep the boundaries of this building in mind. It's going to go basically right up to this wall right here. The ceiling, once again, I'm going to go a little bit on the simpler side. Now, unlike the Combrutor here, in the ceiling, I'm not going to put any glowberries or lights because this building is short enough so that we can actually put all of the lights in the floor, and we're going to do that through a carpet design yet again. If you haven't seen this before, we just hide a bunch of lights in the floor, and then we can put carpet over all of these spots right here, and then this at the end should create a pretty nice 3D effect. For the rest of the floor right here, we're going to use jungle stripped logs. So I think this floor is actually a little bit too bright here with all of these lanterns, so I'm going to take out probably most of them, and then we'll see how it is with just a few. I think this effect is a lot better. Yeah, definitely for sure. And with that, basically we are done with this entire room right here, and we can move on to the much larger room. Alright, we gotta start here first by adding a floor in, because I can't just be jumping around this entire time. So I lied. We actually only are going to do this little bit for now, because honestly this covers most of the cave down. Oh, the cave down here. Maybe it doesn't cover the cave down there if I fell down. But anyways, I think we can work on the walls first actually, because this will give us a better perspective of where everything should go. So I'm using mushroom stem, which is a block I haven't really used before, but I do actually really like the texture of. Actually out of logs here, so I'm just going to pull directly from our supply here in the farm. So for the sake of depth, basically we're going to split this entire room up into smaller chunks, just like what we did here, and kind of like the frames on the exterior. So it's just going to be little pieces just like that. Over here on this side, I've left it blank because I actually want to have something a little bit different here. So what I'm going to do is actually use a lot of blue hardened clay, or sorry, light blue hardened clay. And then we're actually going to have a campfire cooking setup here. We're going to have the central barrel here, and then a bunch of hoppers pointing towards that barrel. We have a ledge right here to stop some cooked items from going over, and so we can just stand on here and then put a bunch of items here on the campfires, and then they'll eventually end up here in the barrel, all for 0 fuel cost. So this is how we're going to probably like smoke our meats from now on. If we ever do that, considering I am eating golden carrots, but maybe in a future update, you know, you never know when you'll need to cook a ton of meat. Alright, so now the main purpose of this room is going to be a place to grow the weeping vines. I'm just going to put in 2 platforms here to do that right here. On top of here is where we're going to put all of our twisting vines. Right here is where I want to be able to access the tree farm. So we'll actually build this up. This entire area has pretty much been just cleaned up a little bit. And so this is where we're going to go up here to use the tree farm. Originally, I did want to build a ceiling over all of this, but as you can see, that would require the ceiling to be pretty low. And so actually, I've been thinking about just leaving this open straight up to the tree farm. Of course, we'll have some stairs on the sides, just like that room there. Let's add the stairs here to the top of the ceiling, as I said earlier. This is mainly to just ease the transition between the walls and just the redstone machinery up here. All right, so that's this room mostly done, except you may have noticed this giant hole in the middle here, and why I was kind of reluctant to place the entire floor in. And that's because actually right here, seeing as we have like these caves here, I actually wanted to put a crimson and warped fungus farm down here. Both of those things are, you know, things that I might want to build with in the future. And of course, crimson fungi can be turned into wood. So I figured that would be something good that we could do in this episode with the extra time that we have. And let's quickly clear out some extra space here. The amount of digging work that we have to do is, as I said, minimal because we have this cave here, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing. Just like the tree farm itself, inside of this fungus farm, there's going to be a bone block shulker to bone meal converter inside of here. Just so that we can always have a decent amount of bone meal inside of our system. And so that's what I'm building right now. Forgot to lock the crafter again. Alright, so just like that, this entire bone mealing setup, just like the tree farm, has been made. This right here is going to be the main platform where bone meal will be used. And then as you can see here in my schematic, there's going to be all kinds of sprouts and nylium and fungi. Unfortunately, we can't actually get any of these sprouts because we need to use shears to get them. These are kind of like the most valuable thing that we could have gotten from this, I'm going to be honest, but we could set up a different farm later for that. But we will get these roots and fungi. Right here, there's going to be timing circuits that will control when the pistons go, and I'm actually making use of the brand new copper bulbs to do this. Alright, so how these timers are going to work is basically this platform is going to be constantly pushed around and then bone mealed. And then every 8th time, these dispensers will fire, and then it will flood the platform with water, pushing all the items into this item stream that will go up this bubble elevator into our storage. This right here is the entire collection system. Just going to be one double chest. And that's because I don't think we'll be using this really enough to warrant more storage than this. I can just lay out all the rows of items how I want it. Alright, so this farm is basically just going to occupy this footprint right here. I think it adds a pretty cool effect to this entire room, just walking in and having this underneath you. Potentially we could use some tinted glass in the future, but I think that gets a little bit dark sometimes. You also have to keep in mind that this won't be open forever. Eventually walls are going to close in here, so it could get a little bit dark, and so for that reason I think this is a good source of light as well. The access to the storage is just going to be right here, and then actually I'll add a lever right here that we can plug into the redstone right here to turn the farm on and off. As you can see right here, this leads all the way down to the clocks, so when this has power, the machine will be running. Let's just get some water so that our dispensers can flood the platform. Alright, without a further ado, let's turn this thing on and see if it works. Alright. Seems like nothing's getting dispensed. This could be an issue with the bone meal dispenser, and then it seems like the water is also coming out a little bit fast. So I might need to add a little bit more delay between the two timing systems. Yeah, by the looks of things, this should be working now. So I don't know why it still isn't then. So yeah, all of the bone meal is getting spent properly. I'm not sure what the issue here is. It might be the timings on the very bottom dispenser, like right here, that's causing the problem. Let's say I add 1 second of delay. No, by the looks of things, it's still not growing anything here for some reason. I'm gonna add another copper lamp worth of delay to the redstone, because I think the water might have actually been on, because the way the glass rendered it. Yeah, okay, so now the water is off. So it was just on. Now let's see if this works. Yeah, there we go. This is more like it. Yep, now it's working pretty much. So now all we need to look out for is if everything is getting properly funneled into the storage. Nothing is appearing in here. Ah, that was the problem. Forgot to put the ice in here. This should fix the problem. Okay, so what I was saying earlier about how we wanted to lay this out, I was going to just kind of have rows like this, and so when all the items go into the hoppers, they'll naturally find their location. Now, once and for all, this should start working. Alright, yep. Everything looking good on this end. And look at that. All of our roots and fungus are flowing into here. Perfect. With that all being said, I think this is a good place to end today's episode. I hope you guys liked the video, and if you did, be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.